Good morning, it's 5:30 a.m. on Saturday the 9th of March, and this is the 31st of 53 consecutive 5-mile walks from the Gresford Memorial Wheel to the Miners' Rescue and back again. Yesterday was a stark reminder of the severe physical and psychological conditions the Gresford miner would have to endure. Working in hellish conditions, under pressure to meet back-breaking quotas, they knew full well they were working in a death trap and that there was no escape. Their superiors knew their peril, but did little to ease it. They would surely want to leave and do something different, but there was no difference. There was nowhere to go, and their superiors knew that too. They were impotent, said the inquiry's commissioner. Perhaps what they needed was collective representation, a trade union who could organise, protect, negotiate, advocate. It was around 1830 when trade unionism in North Wales would organise sufficiently to secure early improved rights for the miner. Local strikes led to the Cinder Hill riots, when Rwaban miners, reinforced by men from Flint, secured higher wages and the removal of an unpopular superior. But despite this, economic slumps, union infighting, a string of unsuccessful strikes, and a general indifference towards the unions, to all intents and purposes, resulted in the death of trade unionism in North Wales by 1885. But within the decade, signs of resurgent trade unionism were seen in North Wales, when a powerful new body, the Miners' Federation of Great Britain, brought miners together across regions to successfully strike against the 25% cut in wages and in favour of the 8-hour shift. And whilst North Wales miners got behind these issues, their support for the National Federation remained tepid, with only a quarter of miners signing up. However, when a strong-willed, passionate man by the name of Edward Hughes, and later his son Hugh, became General and Financial Secretary of the Denbighshire and Flintshire Miners Association, membership and subsequent funds increased rapidly, and strikes and lockouts became more affordable. But then with World War I, the expense of the 1926 general strike, recession, and thousands of subscriptions falling into arrears, the North Wales Miners Association was in dire straits, and the deaths of Edward Hughes and later his son, at a more local level, saw memberships continuing to tumble. Some pits around Wrexham, such as Havard, bucked the trend and were far more militant than others. But overall, the level of antipathy was pronounced, especially in Gresford, where at the time of the disaster, only 25% of the miners were paying into the union. But why? Financial hardship was, of course, a factor. But Professor A. Dodd, writing in 1933, suggested something more cultural was at play, suggesting that Gresford lacked the close-knit, deep community roots of a Welsh-speaking village pit like Havard, and he described Gresford as cosmopolitan, anonymous, drawing men from dozens of scattered small villages and Wrexham, an impersonal and diversified town. He also alluded to the intransigence of the mine owners, in no rush to change, with next to no organisation to concern Bonsall and his deputies. And this created deep levels of apathy amongst the Gresford miners. Edward Hughes, who at one point seemed to be moving toward a mobilised workforce, wrote before his death in 1908 that in a good organised colliery, the humblest of men, like the strong and able, can reason with their managers without fear of being victimised. 30 years later, Henry Walker would state at the inquiry that the lack of collective organisation at Gresford was no doubt a reason why no inspection of the mine on behalf of the workers had been made for many years. And he would conclude by urging miners to become members of some effective trade union, if only on the grounds of safety. A well-organised trade union, he said, wisely directed, can be a potent influence for promoting greater safety in mines. So, in thinking about accountability, we're simply adding more possible explanations to what caused the disaster. It's become a complex story of industrial, social, cultural, and economic factors. And yet, despite this, the story couldn't be simpler. It's the story of structural inequality and injustice. It's the same old story. This walk was dedicated to John T. Lee, Thomas Lee, David Lewis, David Thomas Lewis, and John Lewis of the rescue team. And today's song is A Miner's Life by Billy Bragg.